Hi, this is Mike with another episode of Getting Everyone Moving. Today, for episode 13, we have Eddie Ramirez. Hey, Eddie.
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
All right. So, Eddie, you're on the board of Pines Parasports, of course, but how
Yeah.
did you get involved in adaptive sports?
I'll start off back when I first got injured, back in '04. I was in, I was 17 years old. I was a senior in high school. Got injured in a off-roading accident. 17 years old. I broke my back, and I was actually at Loma Linda University, so I did all my outpatient, inpatient there. They were already like the nurses and stuff like that, and therapists were already talking about, hey, have you ever thought about wheelchair sports or adaptive sports? Um, and I was kind of still hesitant at the time, still being newly injured as a spinal cord injury. But it didn't take until I started meeting other people with disabilities, spinal cord injuries. Actually, my best friend that I met, he's actual spinal bifida who was born with a disability, and he was already playing wheelchair basketball. And he's like, hey, you gotta try it out. I actually got connected to him through we had the same doctors, so I heard him out. I used to play. I was pretty athletic before I got injured. Played baseball, football, and I tried it out, and I really liked basketball because it was the next competitive sport for having a disability. So that kind of sparked everything up. My first year within the Rolling Bears team, I started playing here in Loma Linda with the Possibilities Rolling Bears. First year we actually went to nationals. My first time, it was actually out in what was it, at Peoria, Illinois, and yeah, it was kind of like a shock to see so many teams, so many people having a good time, being competitive, right? That was my first time. I was probably only injured for a little less than 2 years, and I was already, you know, um, exposed to this, which is really cool. It was kind of scary at first, intimidating, definitely, but I think once you get past that, I think just in general, getting into sports and being competitive, it can be intimidating, but that's part of the challenge, which is good.
Did you play sports then before you got injured?
Yeah, yeah. So I definitely I played I primary sport was baseball and then football. Those were the main sports. But just in general athletic, even at home playing sports with the neighbors, and so yeah.
So did you, I mean, you get injured, you can't walk. How did you feel? I mean, were you really depressed? And if so, how did you get out of it?
That's a good question. So yeah, definitely was depressed at first. You go from walking and then, blink of an eye, you're not walking, and it was you do get into your funk, and when I was in the hospital, there's a lot of time to think, and you're alone, and you're like, man, how am I going to live my life again, right? How am I going to live it? How am I? I was thinking through all the different scenarios. Like, am I going to be able to have a girlfriend? Am I gonna, what's my? Is someone going to like me for me? How am I going to drive? How am I going to, am I going to have to live with my parents for the rest of my life? Or just all those thoughts. But definitely, what really helped me was the nursing staff at the hospital connected me to um, another good friend of mine, RJ, who was a spinal cord injury, had been injured for quite some time, and he was like, "Hey, man," he came and visited me. Really cool guy, easygoing. He was actually incomplete quad. He was playing rugby. Showed me some videos. The cool thing that got me was he was driving a lifted truck, and I was like, man, if this guy can do that, you know, uh, I'm like, man, that's kind of like, it gave me, it put some goals in mind. But after talking to him, I was like, man, this guy's like normal. I was like, you know, um, at the time when I got injured, I felt like I was the only person in a wheelchair in the world, right? That's how you feel at first, but as you start networking and collaborating. I think that's the the main thing, right? And that definitely helps out a lot. Yeah.
And how did your family members and friends kind of support you or, get you to really keep going with your life?
Yeah, so that was, that's very crucial, right? Having that support from your family and friends. My dad from the beginning, right? He was with me when I met RJ, and he saw his truck. He's like, you know what? We'll get you a truck. We'll get you going as soon as you get out of here. It was my dad was like right away very supportive. Like right off the bat, let's get you moving, pretty much, right? And my mom, it was a little bit different for her. She was definitely there every day, but I think she was still struggling with my injury, right? So it took her some time, but she was very supportive, right? We were supporting each other. My friends were like, there too. And there, once I started being more independent, once, I started driving, you know, um, what was it? Right before my first year anniversary of being injured.
Hmm.
And I remember that day, my mom and my grandparents showed up to, I was at a local gym working out. My mom would drop me off there, and it was a pretty cool gym. It was all accessible, and they came and picked me up in a pickup truck. And they're like, "Hey, do you like your new truck?" And yeah, so the support was very there because once I started driving, it was like freedom, right? It was like, all right, I could be independent. So very good support. But then once you have that support, you gotta move forward, right? You can't stay in that same place.
So you were in high school then, right? When you had your accident?
Yeah,
And
yeah, I was still in high school.
yeah, how did your classmates kind of treat you and what kind of accommodations were made for you at your school?
Classmates were very supportive. I had quite a few friends. They came to visit me when I was in the hospital. I was there almost about 2 months. It was actually the last semester of my senior year. So we're getting ready like for finals, and all that. Um, the school accommodated me really well. They actually sent one of my teachers over to come and do assignments with me about 2 to 3 times a week. So the accommodation was there, which was great. Because when I got out of school, I'm sorry, when I got out of the hospital, I remember the day, it was May 20th. And then like, I think about like 2 weeks later, I was graduating. So because they accommodated me, I was able to complete all my work, and I ended up, graduating with my class, which is pretty cool.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Okay, so you graduated high school, and then you're playing wheelchair basketball. And so, what did you do kind of after high school?
It was, I'll tell you the truth. It was kind of like, man, what am I going to do now?
Hmm.
Right. When I was in high school, I already had my plan. I was gonna, I wanted to be a police officer. I was gonna join the academy at 21 and a half. I figured, hey, my dad had his own trucking business. I'm like, I could work with him meanwhile until I, get to that age. And then I'll go, become a police officer. So, I thought I had my plan set, right? As we think, and then, life, just the way life goes, right? Changes happen. Um, so I think I was kind of struggling to go back to school. The programs were there, the benefits, right? You go to school for free when you have a disability because of all the programs, the wall waiver, Department of Rehab, right? I was still struggling. Like, man, I'm not really a school person, but you know what? I came to terms like, hey, I got to take advantage of the benefits. If I don't do this, what is my life going to look like? If I don't get a good career, am I going to be able to buy my own home, right? Or am I going to, buy the own things, the things that I want and be independent? And yeah, I ended up um, going to junior college, graduated with my associates in liberal arts, transferred to Cal State San Bernardino, and then got my bachelor's in psychology. Ended up graduating debt free because of all the programs I utilized. Um, So yeah, definitely financial aid kicked in. One good program that I want to share with everybody is Department of Rehab. Whatever financial aid didn't pay for, they were there for books. They actually gave me a laptop. So they were very supportive, which was good. Yeah.
And so, I mean, what have you done then as a career?
So after graduating from Cal State San Bernardino, I was like looking for jobs, and I got I connected one of my friends. We were at actually it was a what was it? It was a dinner for the Disability Sports Festival here that they used to have at Cal State San Bernardino, and it was after the fact because we participated, our team did. So they invited us to a dinner, and one of the friends that I knew of, she worked for Inland Empire Health Plan, which is a managed Medicare health plan. And she was like, "Hey, so what are you doing now?" I was like, "Well, I just graduated, and just waiting, just looking for a job, And she was like, "Well, I think you'd be a perfect fit. We have an opening in our department. I'll talk to my boss about you." And she was working for the disability program at IEHP, which was like, like coincidental, I guess, or and yeah, sure enough, she's like, "Hey, submit your application. My boss knows." And yeah, I submitted it, and then probably like a month later, I was already working with IHP, providing, doing outreach, providing resources for seniors and persons with disabilities, advocating for them. So it was a really cool start to my career. Um, so I've been there for about, let's see, I'm going on 5 years, and now I'm a project analyst. So now I'm managing contracts for programs that we have for community members or members for IHP, to help to better themselves. So yeah.
What about some of your other kind of plans for your life? Have they happened? Um,
Yeah, definitely. After I got started at IHP, um, I met my wife. We were dating. We were talking, and then you know things move on, and then we ended up getting married. So we've been married for about actually this month is our anniversary on the 28th,
ah,
and we'll be married 4 years. Um, and yeah, we have two beautiful little kids that we're actually adopting. And yeah, I mean, I bought a house during that time after we got married, and um, yeah, I kind of, I just, I thank God, all the support and just, his blessings and, just, people that he put in my place to kind of support me in that way. Yeah.
but what's also, inside of you to not give up, and you've accomplished so much, right? I mean, you're still really young, so
Yeah.
there's still a lot more to do. But what's kept you going? What's inside of you?
That's a good question. I think is, it's always, chasing after that challenge, right? Don't get comfortable where you're at. Because, I think when you get comfortable where you're at, nothing's going to happen, right? You're always chasing that challenge or something new, right? You're learning. Just now, like where I'm at in my career, now I'm thinking like, hey, I'm thinking about going back and getting my master's. Um, there's a few goals. I mean, I think it's all about goal setting, right? I'm hoping that before I get older, that we could that we could win a national championship ring for wheelchair basketball. I'm hoping before I get too old, right? Um, but I think it's just it's always been seeking that challenge, right? And especially this world is like always telling us no, right? You can't do this. There's barriers. But I think conquering those barriers, challenging them, is what keeps me going. Yeah.
And so talk a little bit more about what are some of those barriers that you've faced. And the reason I'm asking that question is because, I'm always thinking about how do we create a more inclusive society? And part of that is removing barriers. So
Yeah.
two-part question, barriers, and then how do you think we create more inclusion?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So I think some of the barriers were, after I got injured, there are some things that I had to work through myself, right?
Sure.
I remember starting community college, right? And, um, my mom dropped me off and she's like, all right, I'll be back and pick you up later. And I was like, what? Wait, I don't even know where to get started, right? But, I'm glad that my mom did that because, I had to think to myself, if I don't ask, I'm not going to get anywhere. If I don't, ask people or just, ask around how to, hey, where's the, admin office, admissions office, want to get started. What do I need to do? Right. So, as I got exposed to that, that kind of, there was been barriers that I was breaking through internally. But then, externally in this world, there's a ton of barriers, right? Um, I if I wouldn't have asked, how do I get started in college? How do I do this stuff right? Because I was so shy, I didn't even know there was a program for people with disabilities at my school. That provided rolling desks, that made it easier for me. That even provided priority registration, right? I didn't have to, um, get in line with everybody else. They're like, hey, you have this benefit here, utilize it, right? Um, so, but it wasn't because one of the teachers or one of my professors was like, hey, do you know that there's a DSPS program here, for you that they can help you? She gave me a flyer. I was like, you know what? I didn't know that because I didn't know how to ask. I didn't know, what was there. But just, I think in the world, going to the second question, um, how to have more inclusion, right? I think the world needs to stop and just listen to us, right? Or just, like notice us too. I think that's the big barrier there. They kind of think tunnel vision. They're not thinking about everybody. And it takes us, people like us, people with disabilities, people who are like advocates, that to speak out, letting them know like, hey, there's no curb cut here. You need one. How is someone in a wheelchair going to be able to get up there? Not even for just a person in a wheelchair, someone, a mother who has a baby in a stroller, right? How is she going to do that? Not only is it providing accommodation for people with disabilities, but everyone else too. Um, so I think putting your voice out there, right? I'm not saying just go out there and write, but I'm saying like, hey, if you have strong minded and you're bold, let's change policy, right? Let's help our people with disabilities. Um, you want to join an independent living center and just help individuals, right? One on one, that's another way too, right? And yeah, so I mean, I think just especially like having a PPP, right? That's what we're here for. Help others, get them out of their home, right? Whether it's barriers at home, parents, they have a new kid with a disability, they're not sure who to go to, who to ask. But if we're out here, putting our voices out there, they're going to hear us. Like, hey, you know what? I just found out about Pines Parasport. Let me see what that is. And, it sounds like it's for adaptive sports. Let's see. Let's check it out. So yeah.
Yeah, I think, often, right, I see parents can be overprotective, but it sounds like, that one story you gave with your mom, leaving you off and say, okay, go to
Yeah.
it, that really helps to create more independence.
Right. Yeah, definitely. And I seen it in front of my eyes, especially with my best friend, Manny, who is a spinal bifida. So I met him, and I was already driving. He wasn't. Um, we still hung out, but I noticed that his parents were a little bit more kind of sheltering him in,
Mm.
and I actually started showing him how to drive. Because I was like, he was like, hey man, and that kind of like clicked for him, and he was like, he advocated for himself after that. He was pushing his parents to like, look, Eddie can drive. I want to drive. I want to be independent, and which is pretty cool because he had a technically had a fight with his parents to, be independent, right? And once he started working. He started driving himself to his own doctor's appointments, and it and that he didn't have to rely on his parents, and his parents didn't have to worry about him. Hey, when's his next doctor's appointment? He was taking care of that. He lives on his own. He pays his own rent. Just like we all do. He's just like everybody else. So.
Yeah, uh, absolutely. I don't know if so in some ways, I mean, you've done some mentoring of other people with, varying abilities, disability. Um, so what do you say? What would you say to someone who's maybe, newly injured, not getting out of the house? I mean, how would you approach that?
I know it's tough, right? At first, it's definitely. I think coming in and just having a normal conversation. I remember a lot of the times I used to hate the word. Well, not hate. I don't want to say hate, but I didn't like it when people said, "Hey, it could be worse," right? I'm like, come on, you can't. Come on, don't tell me that
Right.
because you're not in my shoes, right? Or you don't know where I'm at, mentally,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Um, I think just having a normal conversation is always good to start off with, right? Um, being a friend is always a good one. I learned this from I actually was doing peer visits at some of the rehab hospitals here in San Bernardino and Loma Linda, and I would just go in there and just have a normal conversation. I didn't know these guys yet, and I would tell them a little bit about myself. I would definitely share with them my struggles, kind of sharing that trust with them, and you know, definitely another one is don't sympathize, don't put pity on somebody. More emphasize have an understanding of where they're at, and and letting them know that communicating that to them.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So let's say it's 20 years from now, 30 years from now, you're getting close to retiring and you're looking back on your life. I mean, what do you see beside what you've already done? What else have you accomplished in your life?
Are you saying like me in the future?
Yeah,
What would I?
exactly.
Oh man,
Yeah. What?
I haven't thought that for. I guess I'm not ready for retirement, but
No.
I think main thing is kind of we had this conversation, Michael, is bringing something over to San Bernardino as well, kind of like what you guys are doing there. But my big goal is having a big facility. I don't know if you guys ever heard of about Ability 360.
Sure.
You guys ever been there? Oh man, that's an awesome
I
facility.
have. I have.
You have, and you have everything. You have,
Yeah.
you have the basketball courts. You got a swimming pool that's all accessible. You have a gym. You have, right across the building, you can get connected to all these programs that that would advocate for you, to help you to become independent. It's everything in a centralized location. um, and that's something that I wish that I'm looking sometime in my life that I could be a part of, or hoping I win the lottery and I could just pay for it. But definitely that's one of my biggest goals is to provide a big facility like that. There's a lot of people in need that can benefit from it.
Yeah, there's I don't know how similar it is, but there's a large facility, Lakeshore Foundation in Alabama.
Okay.
So there, it would be great to do
Oh
something in
yeah.
this area too. So that's a
Yeah, I
very,
heard about that one. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's a really good goal though. Okay, let's make it
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah. Let's
We'll
do it.
do it. We'll do it. All right. So anything else you want to tell people either about yourself or, just in general?
Yeah, I mean, let's see, I'm 34. Played wheelchair basketball. Been playing. This will be my 14th season. Hopefully, we get started.
Oh,
A little bit of disability sensitivity training. Um, we're not handicapped. We don't use that word anymore. That's a big one.
thank you for saying that.
um, it's a disadvantage word. I just want to share with everyone, right? You can say a person with a disability, or always put the person first, right? You don't want to say disabled person. You want to say person with a disability, or the wheelchair user, or the child that has autism, not the autistic child, because we're people first, and then our disability comes after. Um, so that's a big main one. Another thing too is I learned just over time was not saying what are your disabilities. I'm saying what are your abilities,
Yeah.
right? Just don't focus on the disabilities. Just focus on what you're doing and what you can do. Move forward from there. So um, I think those are my two main ones. Those are always good.
That's good. Yeah, language is important. Well,
Yeah.
Eddie, this has been great. Thanks for sharing part of your life, and obviously look forward to continuing to work together to build that facility.
Yeah, definitely. I look forward to it.
All right. Thanks very much.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, Michael.